My mom secretly invited my ex-boyfriend to my engagement party behind my back. Can you even imagine planning the happiest day of your life, only for your own mother to try and destroy it? My engagement party should have been a dream, a celebration of love, but instead it became an absolute nightmare. All thanks to the woman who gave birth to me. And honestly, I still can't quite wrap my head around it. I've replayed that day in my mind probably 1,000 times. 1,000 times, and I still don't understand how she thought any of this was okay. Aaron, my fiancé, and I have been together for almost 4 years. 2 months ago, he proposed during a trip to visit his grandparents in North Carolina. It was sunset on their porch, just simple, intimate, and perfect. Exactly us. I said yes, obviously. It was genuinely one of the happiest moments of my life. We called my parents that night to tell them, and that's when things started to feel off. My mom's reaction was just weird. She said, "Congratulations." But there was this strange, drawn-out pause before she actually got the word out, like she had to search for it. My dad was thrilled, asking about the ring, wanting all the details. Mom, though? She just kept saying things like, "Well, that's exciting. I hope you've thought this through, and make sure you're really ready." I mean, sure, maybe that's just typical mom stuff, but it didn't sit right. It just felt dismissive. Here's the thing about my mom and Aaron. She's never been his biggest fan. Ever. Nothing he does is ever quite good enough for her. The first time I brought him home for Thanksgiving 3 years ago, she spent the entire dinner grilling him about his career plans. Are you thinking about going back to school? Do you really think this is sustainable? Aaron works in logistics for a distribution company. It's not glamorous, I guess, but he's incredibly good at it. He makes decent money, and most importantly, he likes his job. But my mom acts like he's some kind of deadbeat just because he doesn't have a fancy title. Meanwhile, my ex Chris. Oh God, where do I even begin with Chris? Chris and I dated for almost 5 years, from when I was 19 to 24. My mom loved Chris. Obsessively loved him. He came from money. His family owns a chain of car dealerships across 3 states. He was always perfectly dressed, always said all the right things to parents. My mom would constantly tell me how lucky I was, how I'd found someone like him. She'd brag about him to her friends. She even kept a photo of us from my cousin's wedding on her mantle for years after we broke up. The thing is, Chris was also a lying, manipulative piece of garbage who cheated on me with at least 2 different women during our relationship. He made me feel like I was losing my mind every single time I tried to voice my concerns. I spent the last 1.5 years of that relationship constantly apologizing for being paranoid and jealous, only to find out I was right the entire time. Finding out the truth almost broke me. It took me a long time to trust anyone again. And when I finally told my mom the full story of why we broke up, she literally just shrugged and said, "Well, relationships are complicated, and no one's perfect." No one's perfect. Like finding your boyfriend's secret Instagram where he's DMing other women asking when he can see them again, is just a little oopsie that mature adults work through? Unbelievable. She never stopped asking about him. Every few months, she'd casually mention running into his mother at the grocery store, or hearing through someone that he was doing well. "Oh, did you know he bought a house now?" I asked her multiple times to stop bringing him up. She'd apologize, then do it again 3 months later. So, when I started dating Aaron, her skepticism was immediate. From day one, she'd compare everything he did to Chris. Chris always brought flowers when he came over. Does Aaron not do that? Chris used to take you to nice restaurants. Chris had such good manners. I finally snapped at her about a year in. I told her straight up, "You need to stop comparing my current boyfriend to my cheating ex, or I'm going to stop coming around." She cried, said I was being dramatic, and that she was just trying to help me see things clearly. Okay, so the engagement party. Aaron's parents threw us a small, lovely, low-key party the weekend after we got engaged. Just close family and a few friends. My parents came and my mom mostly behaved herself. Just one little snide comment about the appetizers being store-bought. Like, who cares? Then my mom insisted she wanted to throw us a proper celebration. A bigger party at her house, invite extended family, make it a real event. I was hesitant, honestly. I knew how she felt about Aaron, but Aaron, being Aaron, said we should let her do it. "Maybe it'll help her feel more involved," he said. "Maybe she'll warm up to me." That's what I love about him. He always tries to see the best in people, even when they don't deserve it. So we agreed. She planned it for 3 weeks out, texting me constantly about catering decorations, the guest list. I sent her our list of friends. She added more family members. Seemed like it was coming together fine. Saturday arrived. Aaron and I drove over to my parents' house around 4. The party was supposed to start at 5. My sister Jada was already there helping set up. The backyard looked genuinely nice. Mom had rented tables and chairs, strung up lights. There was a huge spread of food. For a minute I actually felt grateful. Like maybe, just maybe, she was really trying. People started arriving. My aunts and uncles, some cousins, family friends I hadn't seen in ages. Aaron's brother came with his wife. A few of our actual friends showed up. It was filling up nicely. Aaron was being his usual charming self, effortlessly making conversation with my relatives he'd only met once or twice, actually remembering little details about their lives that I'd told him. My Aunt Doris kept telling me how handsome he was and how happy I looked. Then around 6 I was standing near the food table, chatting with my cousin, when I saw someone walk through the side gate. I literally stopped mid-sentence. My jaw dropped. It was Chris. Chris. At my engagement party. Walking into my parents' backyard like he belonged there, holding a bottle of wine, wearing this blue button-down I actually remembered from when we dated. I looked around for my mom and found her already walking toward him, arms open. She hugged him. My mother was hugging my ex-boyfriend at my engagement party, while my fiancé was 15 feet away, talking to my uncle. I walked over immediately. I wasn't even trying to make a scene. I just needed to understand what the hell was happening. I asked her what Chris was doing here, and she acted completely confused. She said she'd invited him, that she thought it would be nice for everyone to catch up, since we'd all been so close. I stared at her. We are not close, Mom. We broke up 5 years ago, and you know exactly why. She waved her hand like I was being silly. Oh, that was ages ago. Everyone's moved on. And Chris had been wanting to reconnect anyway. Chris had been wanting to reconnect. Which means she'd been in contact with him. She'd been talking to my ex behind my back. Chris just stood there with this smarmy little smile on his face. Like this was all totally normal. He said, hey, told me I looked great, said he was really happy to be here. The sheer audacity of this man, standing in my parents' backyard at my own engagement party, acting like we were all just old friends. I told him he needed to leave. My mom immediately jumped in. You're being rude. Chris drove all this way. The least you could do is be civil. I snapped. I am not going to be civil to someone who spent years lying to me. I want him gone. She started doing that thing where she talks to me like I'm an unreasonable child, telling me I was making a scene, and embarrassing her in front of everyone. At this point, Aaron had noticed something was going on and came over. His face was a question mark. What's happening? He asked. I told him. My mom invited my ex without telling me. He looked at Chris, then at my mom, then back at me. His expression hardened. Do you want to leave? He asked me. Before I could even answer, my mom cut in loud and clear. Absolutely not. This party was for us and we weren't going anywhere. And Chris is just an old family friend here to wish us well. Aaron turned to her. His voice deceptively calm. It's not appropriate for you to invite her ex to our engagement party without asking. My mom's face got this tight, pinched look. I didn't realize I needed permission to invite guests to my own home. Aaron's reply was sharp. It's not about permission, it's about respect. She scoffed. I don't need a lecture on respect from him. That was it. My limit. I told Aaron we should go. I'm done. I wasn't going to stand there and watch my mother prioritize my ex's feelings over mine at my own damn engagement party. But we didn't leave fast enough. My mom grabbed a fork and tapped it against her wine glass. The whole backyard went quiet. Every single eye was on her. She smiled a fake saccharine smile. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming to celebrate this special occasion, she began. Then her voice dropped, turning serious. As a mother, I have to speak my truth. My heart sank. I knew exactly where this was going. She said she loved me more than anything, wanted the best for me. She'd watched me struggle over the years, and make choices she didn't always understand. She'd tried to be supportive, even when it was hard. And then she said she couldn't stay quiet anymore. I don't think Aaron is right for you. The words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. She continued, I've always felt that Chris was your true match, that you two had something special that you threw away. And I believe in my heart that you are making a mistake. She pointedly looked at Chris, then back at me. I invited Chris today because I wanted you to see him, to really see him and remember what you had. It's not too late to choose differently. I cannot describe to you what it felt like to stand there, in front of 50 people, while my mother, my own mother, told everyone I should marry my cheating ex instead of my fiancé. There was this moment where nobody made a sound. I could see my Aunt Doris with her mouth literally hanging open. My cousin was staring at the ground. Aaron's brother looked like he wanted to murder someone. And Chris? Chris had this detached expression on his face, like he was just watching something mildly interesting on TV. Not embarrassed. Not uncomfortable. Just observing. Aaron didn't say anything. He just turned and walked out of the backyard through the side gate. I called after him. Aaron. He didn't stop. I ran after him, obviously. By the time I got to the front of the house, he was already at his car. I was pleading with him, begging him to wait, to talk to me, telling him, none of this is my fault. He said he knew it wasn't my fault. He just couldn't be there right now. He needed to process what just happened. He'd call me later. Then he got in his car and left. Just like that. When I went back to the backyard, half the guests were already gone. My dad was standing near the back door, hands in his pockets, looking like he wished the earth would swallow him whole. Jada was yelling at my mom, her face red. What the hell were you thinking? My mom was crying now, saying everyone was overreacting, and she was just being honest about her feelings. Chris was still there, of course, still holding that stupid bottle of wine. He walked up to me, a look of faux sincerity on his face. Hey, I'm sorry things got out of hand. That wasn't how I'd imagined this going. I looked at him, disbelief curdling into pure rage. What exactly did you imagine? I spat. He fidgeted slightly. Well, your mom reached out to me a few weeks ago. Said she wanted to reconnect us. Thought we'd both grown. Maybe it was worth another chance. He even had the gall to say, I never stopped thinking about you. I know I made mistakes, but I'm different now. I just stared him down. Get out of my face. And never contact me or my family again. He looked genuinely surprised, like he actually thought after all that I might want to talk to him. He shrugged. Okay. Her loss. And walked out. Good riddance. I found my mom sitting on one of the rented chairs, still crying. She started immediately. I was just trying to help. I only want you to be happy. Why can't you understand that I know what's best for you? I cut her off. You destroyed my engagement party, Mom. You humiliated me and Aaron in front of everyone. I need you to leave me alone. She glared at me, tears still streaming. You're being ungrateful after everything I've done. What you've done, I said, my voice shaking, is betray my trust. You ambushed me with my ex at my own celebration. She shook her head. Aaron will never understand you the way Chris did. Chris came from a good family and had real prospects. Aaron is just settling. You're going to wake up in 10 years and realize you wasted your life with the wrong person. I've been watching you make this mistake for 4 years, and I finally had to say something. That's when my dad finally stepped in. His voice quiet but firm. That's enough. My mom immediately turned on him. You never support me. This is exactly why she doesn't listen to me. Because you always take her side. Dad didn't back down. There are no sides. You just humiliated our daughter at her engagement party and invited an ex who hurt her deeply. She snapped back. You're overreacting too. Jada drove me home because I was in no state to drive. She kept saying she couldn't believe Mom actually did that. I always knew Mom had a weird thing about Chris, she said. But I never thought she'd take it this far. She was so sorry. I just kept checking my phone, hoping Aaron would text or call. He didn't that night. I barely slept. The next morning I finally texted him, saying I understood if he needed space, but I wanted him to know I had no idea any of that was going to happen, and I was devastated. He responded a few hours later. He knew it wasn't my fault and he wasn't angry at me, but he needed a few days to think. Few days. After being together for almost 4 years. After proposing. after planning a future together. He needed a few days. All because my mother announced to 50 people that I should marry someone else. My mom, meanwhile, has been texting and calling constantly, leaving voicemails saying she's sorry if I'm upset. But she stands by what she said. She thinks eventually I'll see she was right. She keeps spouting cliches like, "When you're my age, you'll understand," and "I've seen more of life than you have." And the kicker? A mother always knows. And get this, Chris apparently told his mother about what happened, and she called my mom to say how brave she was for speaking up. So now my mom is feeling validated because another delusional person agreed with her. I don't know what to do. Aaron is barely talking to me. My mom won't accept that she did anything wrong. Jada thinks I should cut mom off completely, but I don't know if I can do that. And Chris? He's still out there thinking he has some chance with me. The worst part, the part that keeps me up at night, is thinking about the fact that my mother has been talking to my ex behind my back for God knows how long, planning this, coordinating with him. This wasn't spontaneous. She didn't just randomly decide to invite him that day. She reached out to him weeks before. She told him about the party. She told him I might give him another chance. What else has she been telling him over the years? My engagement might be over because my mother decided she gets to choose who I marry. And the worst part is, I think she genuinely believes she was doing me a favor. Update. Aaron finally agreed to talk to me 5 days after the party. 5 days of barely any communication, just short texts saying he was okay and he'd reach out when he was ready. 5 days of me sitting in our apartment, surrounded by engagement gifts we brought home from his parents' celebration, staring at this ring on my finger, wondering if I was still engaged or not. 5 days of my mom flooding my phone with messages I couldn't bring myself to answer. He texted me on Thursday afternoon and asked if I could meet him at this park near his brother's place. Not our apartment. Not somewhere we usually go together. That scared me, honestly. I got there before him and sat on a bench near the walking path, trying not to spiral. When he showed up, he sat down next to me, but left a noticeable space between us. For a while, neither of us said anything. Then he told me he'd spent the past 5 days replaying that party in his head, trying to figure out what it all meant. He said he wasn't angry at me. He knew I didn't plan any of it, but something had shifted for him and he needed me to understand what. He said standing there, listening to my mother tell a backyard full of people that I should marry someone else, while the guy she wanted me to marry stood there watching like it was entertainment, was one of the most humiliating moments of his life. He'd always known my mom didn't love him, but he thought she at least respected our relationship. Finding out she'd been secretly talking to my ex and coordinating this whole thing made him realize she doesn't just dislike him. She's actively working against us. I tried to tell him that my mom doesn't speak for me, that her opinion doesn't matter, that I chose him, and I would keep choosing him every single day. He said he knew that. He said the problem wasn't whether I loved him. The problem was whether he could spend the rest of his life with someone whose mother would never accept him, and would apparently go to extreme lengths to sabotage our relationship. He asked me what I was going to do about her. Not in an accusatory way. He genuinely wanted to know what my plan was. Because he said if the answer was nothing, if I was just going to let this blow over and go back to normal family dinners and holiday gatherings where she makes little comments about him while secretly wishing I was with Chris, then he didn't know if he could do that. I told him I didn't know what to do yet. I said I was furious with her. I hadn't spoken to her since the party, but cutting off my mother completely felt huge and permanent, and I wasn't sure I was ready for that. He said he understood. He wasn't asking me to cut her off. He was asking me to set actual boundaries and stick to them. He said every time she made a comment about him in the past, I would tell her to stop and she would apologize and then do it again 3 months later. He asked what was going to be different this time. I didn't have an answer. Because he was right. I'd never actually enforced any real consequences. I just kept hoping she would change on her own. He told me he loved me. He said he still wanted to marry me, but he needed to see that I was willing to protect our relationship, even when it was hard. He said he'd watched me let her cross lines over and over because confronting her was uncomfortable, and he was tired of being the one who had to just deal with it while I tried to keep the peace. That hurt to hear. It hurt because it was true. We sat there for another hour talking about everything. How he felt when he first realized my mom didn't like him. How he tried so hard to win her over those first couple years, bringing gifts, remembering her birthday, always being polite, even when she made snide comments. How eventually he stopped trying because nothing worked and it was exhausting. How he felt like he was always being compared to someone he'd never even met and found lacking. He even asked me if I still had feelings for Chris. I told him absolutely not. That Chris was a cheating liar who messed with my head for years, and the idea of ever being with him again made me physically ill. He said, "Okay, I believe you. But I needed to ask, because clearly your mother thought there was something there worth salvaging." I told him I had no idea why my mother was so obsessed with Chris. I'd never understood it. Even when Chris and I were together, and I was miserable and constantly anxious and feeling like I was going crazy, my mom acted like everything was perfect. When I finally told her about the cheating, she basically shrugged it off. It was like she decided Chris was the right person for me, and no amount of evidence to the contrary would change her mind. Erin asked if she knew all the details of what Chris did. I said yes. I told her everything eventually, the Instagram account, the women, the lies. She knew all of it. He just shook his head and said that made it so much worse. Because it meant she was willing to push me back towards someone who had genuinely hurt me, someone she knew had hurt me, because she liked his family's money or his manners or whatever else she saw in him. He said that wasn't loving me. That was treating me like a doll she could dress up and arrange however she wanted. We left the park with things still unresolved, but at least we were talking again. He came back to the apartment that night. We didn't really discuss the engagement or wedding planning. We just existed in the same space again, and that felt like progress. The next day, I decided I had to talk to my mom. Not text. Not call. Face to face. I drove over to my parents' house Saturday morning. My dad's truck wasn't in the driveway, so I knew it would just be her. She opened the door looking surprised to see me, and immediately started with, "Oh honey, I'm so glad you came. I've been so worried. You haven't been answering my messages." I walked past her into the living room and told her we needed to talk. She sat down across from me and put on this wounded expression, like I was the one who'd done something wrong. She said she knew I was upset, but she hoped I'd had time to calm down and think about things more clearly. She said she'd only done what she did because she loves me and wants the best for me. I asked her, "How long have you been talking to Chris behind my back?" She got this look on her face, half defensive, half annoyed. "It wasn't behind your back. I've simply stayed in touch with his family over the years, and recently they've reconnected." I pressed her. "Define recently." She hesitated. "The past few months." I asked what they talked about. Just catching up, how his life was going, that sort of thing. I asked if she told him about my engagement. Of course I mentioned it. And his reaction? She paused again. He was surprised, but he said some very nice things about always caring about you and wondering how you were doing. I asked if she told him where the party was and what time to show up. I may have mentioned it. And did she tell him he should come? She stiffened. I extended an invitation, yes, because I thought it might be good for us to see each other. Good for us. She thought ambushing me with my cheating ex at my engagement party would be good for me? I told her, "Mom, Chris cheated on me for years. He lied to my face constantly. I spent the last 18 months of our relationship questioning my own sanity because every time I suspected something, he made me feel like I was paranoid and jealous for no reason. Do you remember any of that?" She said yes, she remembered. But she also remembered how happy I'd been with him in the beginning. "Every relationship has rough patches," she said. "And what matters is whether you can work through them." I stared at her dumbfounded. "Is cheating with multiple women a rough patch to you?" She shrugged. "Chris has clearly grown since then. And people deserve second chances." I asked, "Why does Chris deserve a second chance, but Erin doesn't deserve a first one? Why have you spent 4 years making Erin feel unwelcome and inadequate when he's never done anything wrong?" She went quiet for a second, then said, "It's not about Erin doing anything wrong. It's about whether he's right for you. Chris comes from a family with resources, with connections, with stability. Erin works at a warehouse." I immediately corrected her. "He works in logistics management, Mom. It's different." She just waved her hand like the distinction didn't matter. "I wanted you to have security. I wanted you to have the life I never had." That hit me. That was the first time she'd ever said that out loud. The life she never had. My dad is a good man, he's worked the same job for 30 years, he's reliable, he loves my mom. He's never raised his voice at any of us. But they've never had much money. They live in the same small house I grew up in. They've never taken fancy vacations. My mom has always been acutely aware of what other people have that she doesn't. I realized sitting there that this wasn't about Chris. It was about what Chris represented. His family's money, their status, the life she imagined I could have if I married into it. She didn't care that he cheated on me because in her mind the trade-off was worth it. Security and status in exchange for fidelity and respect. I asked her if she understood how messed up that was. She said I was oversimplifying things. Marriage isn't just about love. It's about building a life, and I wanted you to have options. What options? I asked, my voice rising. She listed them out. Chris could give you things Aaron never could. A big house, nice cars, never having to worry about money. I told her I didn't care about any of that. I'd rather live in a one-bedroom apartment with Aaron than a mansion with Chris. She scoffed. That's because you're young and naive and don't understand yet how much money matters. I stood up. My patience was completely gone. You owe me and Aaron an apology. A real one. Not an I'm sorry you're upset, but a genuine acknowledgement that what you did was wrong. She looked me dead in the eye. I will apologize for how things happened, but not for the sentiment behind it. I still believe I was right. I stared at her, disbelief chilling me. Are you seriously telling me you would do it all over again? She didn't even flinch. If I thought it would help you see reason, then yes. My breath hitched. Then until you can genuinely apologize and commit to respecting my relationship with Aaron, I don't want to see you or talk to you. She started crying again immediately. Why are you being so cruel after everything I've done for you? I fired back. What you've done for me is humiliate me in front of everyone I know, and make my fiancé question whether he could marry into a family that would never accept him. I turned and walked away. She followed me to the door, still talking, pleading. You can't just cut me off. I'm your mother. We need to work through this like adults. I paused at the door, turning back to her. Working through it requires you admitting you were wrong. And you've already said you're not going to do that. She wailed. You're putting Aaron before your own family. I shook my head, my resolve hardening. Aaron is my family now. And you need to accept that, or accept not being part of my life. I got in my car and drove away while she stood in the doorway, shouting. When I got home and told Aaron what happened, he seemed relieved that I'd actually confronted her. But then I told him what she'd said about wanting me to have the life she never had, about security, and how she basically admitted she was okay with Chris cheating because at least he had money. Aaron just sat there processing. Then he asked me something I wasn't expecting. He asked if part of me agreed with her. If somewhere deep down, I wondered whether I was giving up something by choosing him instead of someone with more money. No, I said, without a moment of hesitation. Absolutely not. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, and I don't give a single damn about Chris's family money. He said, okay, I believe you. But I need you to understand how hard it was to hear that my own mother thought I wasn't good enough because of my bank account. We talked for a long time that night. About money, about class, about what we actually wanted our life to look like. He admitted he'd always felt insecure around my mom because he could tell she looked down on him. He said he'd never told me because he didn't want to cause problems between me and her. I wished he had told me sooner. Things felt better between us after that conversation, like we were actually on the same team again instead of me being caught in the middle. But then Sunday happened. My sister Jada called me in the afternoon. Said I needed to come over to her place because she had something to tell me. She wouldn't say what over the phone. I drove over thinking something was wrong with her. Or maybe our dad. When I got there, she sat me down and said she'd gone to visit our mom that morning to check on her. She said mom had been showing her texts she'd been exchanging with Chris's mother. And that's when Jada saw something that made her really concerned. Apparently, my mom had been planning this for longer than a few months. Jada saw a text from back in January where my mom told Chris's mother that she thought I was going to get engaged soon, and she was dreading it. Chris's mother responded saying, maybe there was still time to change things. They'd been discussing me like I was a problem to be solved, for months before the party even happened. And then Jada told me the part that made me want to scream. Chris's mother had apparently told him back in February that my mom wanted them to reconnect. She'd given him my mom's number. They'd been talking directly, not just through their mothers, for 4 months. He knew about Aaron. He knew we were serious. And he came to that party thinking he actually had a chance because my mom had spent months telling him I wasn't really happy. My mom had been lying to my ex about my relationship, telling him things weren't good between me and Aaron, setting him up to believe I might leave Aaron for him if given the opportunity. I called my mom immediately. She answered sounding hopeful, like maybe I was calling to reconcile. My voice was a shaky whisper. "Have you been telling Chris that I'm unhappy with Aaron?" She went completely quiet. Then she stammered, "I may have expressed some concerns to him about whether you were making the right choice." I pushed. "What exactly did you tell him?" She said she just mentioned that you seemed stressed sometimes, and that Aaron didn't seem to make you as happy as you used to be with Chris. I asked, "Did you tell him I might leave Aaron?" She hesitated. "Not in those words, but I may have implied there was an opening." "An opening?" She told my ex there was an opening to get back with me. I hung up on her. I couldn't listen to any more justifications, any more lies. Now I'm sitting here, trying to process that my mother has been running a months-long campaign to sabotage my relationship and reunite me with my cheating ex. This wasn't just one bad decision at a party. This was premeditated. She's been working on this since before Aaron even proposed. Aaron doesn't know about this part yet. I don't know how to tell him. I don't know how he'll react when he finds out my mom has been actively trying to break us up for months. And Chris is still out there thinking he has some chance with me because my mother spent 4 months filling his head with lies. I'm so angry I can barely see straight. Final update. Okay, so this is probably my last update because honestly I'm exhausted and I think things have finally settled into something resembling a conclusion. I told Aaron everything. About the text Jada showed me, about the months of planning. About my mom telling Chris there was an opening. I sat him down and just laid it all out because I was done keeping things from him, even to protect his feelings. He was quiet for a long time. Then he asked me why my mother hated him so much that she'd spend months trying to destroy our relationship. I told him it wasn't about him specifically. It was about money and status and my mom's weird obsession with the life she wished she'd had. He said that didn't make it hurt less. I told him I was done with her. Not just taking a break, or setting boundaries that she'd inevitably cross again. Done. He told me he didn't want to be the reason I lost my mother. I told him he wasn't the reason. She was. She made choices for months, knowing exactly what she was doing. And she didn't care how it would affect me as long as she got what she wanted. That's not a mother who loves me. That's a mother who loves her idea of what my life should look like. We talked until 3 in the morning about our families, about what kind of wedding we actually wanted now. About whether we even wanted his parents involved anymore after they'd witnessed that disaster. He said his parents thought I was amazing, and nothing my mom did would change that. I cried a little. The next day, I drove to my parents' house one last time. My dad answered the door looking tired and sad. He told me my mom was in the kitchen. I told him I was there to say something to her and then I was leaving, and I didn't know when I'd be back. He nodded like he'd been expecting this. My mom was at the kitchen table with coffee, still in her robe. She looked up when I walked in and immediately started talking, saying she was glad I came because we really needed to discuss this like adults. And she was sure we could work through it if we just communicated. I cut her off. I'm not here to work through anything. I'm here to tell you that I know everything. I laid out the timeline. The texts with Chris's mom going back to January. The 4 months of direct communication with Chris. Telling him I was unhappy with Aaron. Telling him there was an opening to... She tried to interrupt me, but I didn't let her. I'm not done. You deliberately tried to sabotage my relationship with a man I love because you wanted me to be with someone rich. You picked my ex who cheated on me and lied to me for years, over the man who has never been anything but kind to me. That says more about your values than it ever could about mine. She started saying I was twisting everything. That she just wanted me to be happy and secure. I told her, you wanted me to be what you considered happy and secure, regardless of what I actually wanted. Did you ever once consider that I was genuinely happy with Aaron? She snapped. You might think you're happy now, but in 10 years when money gets tight, you'll realize you made a mistake. I looked at her dead serious. The only mistake I made was not cutting you off sooner. I told her I was done. I don't want you at my wedding. I don't want you in my life. You can keep your opinions about my choices to yourself, because I will no longer be available to hear them. She stood up and grabbed my arm, saying I couldn't do this, that she was my mother, that I needed her. I pulled my arm away. A mother who deliberately hurts her child to get what she wants isn't someone I need in my life. My dad had been standing in the doorway the whole time. He finally spoke up. Let her go. She turned on him, screaming that he was always taking my side, that he never supported her, that this was all his fault for not backing her up. He looked at her calmly. I couldn't support something that was hurting our daughter. She called him a coward. I walked out while they were still arguing. Jada texted me later saying our parents had a massive fight after I left, and our dad was sleeping at our uncle's house that night. I felt bad for him, but I couldn't fix that. He's an adult, and he can make his own choices about whether to stay with a woman who just burned down her relationship with both her daughters. Because yeah, Jada told our mom she agreed with me. She told her what she did was selfish and cruel, and she understood why I was cutting contact. Mom apparently told Jada she was brainwashed, and that someday we'd both thank her. Aaron and I spent that weekend just being together, without the dark cloud of my mom hanging over everything. We talked about actually planning the wedding now. Just something small, intimate, with people who genuinely want us to be happy. His parents, Jada, a few close friends. No 50-person backyard parties. No engagement dinners where someone might announce I should marry someone else. We set a date 7 months from now. Small ceremony, maybe 30 people at most. I got a text from Chris about a week later. He said he was sorry for how things went down, and he hoped I'd find it in my heart to forgive him someday. He said my mom had made it sound like I was having doubts about Aaron, and he genuinely thought there was a chance. He said he realized now that wasn't the case. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say to him. He made his choices, knowing he was walking into my engagement party hoping to steal me from my fiancé. Whatever my mom told him, he's a grown man who could have said no. My mom has kept texting long messages about how much she loves me and how I'm going to regret pushing her away. Shorter messages just saying she misses me. A few angry ones accusing me of being selfish and ungrateful. My dad called once to check on me. He apologized for not doing more to stop her over the years. He said he always hoped she'd come around on her own. I told him hoping wasn't the same as doing something. He agreed. I don't know if my parents will stay together. I don't know if my mom will ever actually change, or if she'll just keep telling herself she was right until she dies. What I do know is that I'm marrying Aaron in 8 months, and she won't be there. And I'm okay with that. Some people in the comments of my earlier post said I should try therapy with her, or give her another chance. And I get why that sounds reasonable. She's my mom. But she had chances. Years of chances. Every time I asked her to stop comparing Aaron to Chris, every time I asked her to stop bringing him up, she kept doing it anyway. And then she escalated to actively trying to break us up. At some point, you have to accept that someone is telling you who they are. My mom told me loud and clear that her vision for my life matters more to her than my actual happiness. So, tell me, after all that, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever faced something like this with a family member? I really want to know what you think.